Hi, I'm Jeff DeRiso from Beckman Collaborative, and today I'm going to show you how to create a map report in Zoho Analytics. We'll achieve this using latitude and longitude coordinates converted to geocolumns. Then we can easily drag and drop them to create our map view. A map report helps us visualize the geographic location of records in our CRM, and eventually we may be able to see larger geographic patterns in our relationships with our vendors or our customers, which will help drive future decision making. So let's get into Zoho Analytics and I'll show you how it works. Okay, here we are in Zoho Analytics and I'm in my raw vendors table here. This is the vendors module that is synced from Zoho CRM into Zoho Analytics. So I've just limited the columns to only see the columns I want. So we want to create a map report using this data. And of course, the most precise data we can use for a map report is latitude and longitude. If we input the city, state, and country, we can create a map report based on those values. But if we want that pin on the map to be in the exact spot where this vendor is, or whatever module you're using this for, we really want to use latitude and longitude. Now, obviously, if we were manually entering this latitude and longitude data in our CRM fields, that would be a relatively tedious task. So we've actually automated that with a function in CRM written in Deluge scripting language that uses the street address and gets the latitude and longitude coordinates based on that. And in the next video, I'll show you how we did that. So make sure you watch our next video if you're curious about that. So the first step will actually be to create what are called geocolumns from these latitude and longitude columns. As you can see, I've made them single line text fields, but you could also choose to make them decimal fields as well. But when I convert them, you'll see that I will convert them to decimals. So our first step will be to create a formula column for each one of these columns. We'll go to Add, Formula Column, and we have our columns that we can just add. Now, if our field in CRM is already a decimal field, we can simply add our column from this columns here, click on it, and it will automatically populate here in the formula screen. And then we can name it. And if this was already a decimal field, we could just click Save. But since this is a text field, we have to convert it back to a decimal. And we'll use the toDecimal function in our functions menu. So we'll click that, and then we'll put our latitude column within that. And then we need to have the precision. We'll use the default, which is 38. That's how many digits are preserved for calculation. And then we also want to add the scale, which is how many digits are preserved after the decimal point. And for that, we'll put 10, which seems reasonable for latitude and longitude. So now we can click Save. So now if we scroll over here, we see we've created a new field called latitude geo, and it has been converted to a decimal field automatically. But it is still not a geo field yet. We still have to right click it and select change data type. And from the data types menu, we scroll down to geolocation and select latitude, and then select OK. So now when we scroll over, you see we have this little globe icon instead of the number or decimal icon. And that tells us that this is a properly formatted geo column. So now we're going to go through those same steps for the longitude column. Okay, we've now successfully created our geo columns for our latitude and longitude values. And these are the columns we'll use to create our chart. So to make our report, we'll go to the plus sign in the top left and we'll click Chart View. We'll select our vendors table, which is already selected. And now we'll scroll down in our vendors table to latitude and longitude and click to generate graph. So now you see we have precise data for our vendors module based on their addresses. Now, if we want to see more information in this little pop-up here, we can drag other columns for this text box. We can drag our city and state and even country. And now when we hover over one, we see the city, state, and country. So that just gives us a little extra, and we can drag any columns we want here. We could drag the vendor name. Actually, we could drag the vendor name into the main text column, and that way it'll actually show up on our map. So now we see which vendors are where on our map report based on their full address. So this is a really simple way to visualize geographic data like addresses. Now there's also, let's save our map, vendors map. And now that we've saved our map, we can look at the different options we have for settings. We have our map scatter chart, which is what we're using now. We have bubble chart, which if we had multiple entities in the same location, this would show a larger bubble for the locations that had more entities. But since each vendor is unique, this doesn't really apply to this use case. So, and these other chart types are all for comparing the data across geographic locations. So if that's what you're doing, you may need to use one of these other types. But if you just want to visualize location, then map scatter is what you need. So if you want to have different colors for different countries, for example, let's drag the country out. So now we've got our countries are in different colors. Our USA, our Canada is a different color. And then we have our different European countries, Germany and Netherlands. So each country gets its own color in this legend here. We also have different settings for the look of our map. So you see we just have sort of a white and gray look here. If we go to settings here in the top right, and we go to map, the map tab, and click map styles, we have different styles here. We can change it to a blue. We can even have it be a satellite view. We can choose to invert the color, wash out the background. We can also choose other labels that we want to show on our map: roadway lines, railways, airports, city, state, country borders, etc. And that is turned on by default. We can also choose the style of our marker. Right now it's just a simple circle. We can use these map pins as well. And there's of course different styles for our map pin. If we go to the general settings, we can also change the colors for each country. And we can change other settings. We can change the names of our axes here. Instead of vendor name, we would just want it to say vendor maybe. So then when we hover over it, you can see it says vendor instead of vendor name. So there's little things like that that you can update within the settings here. So we'll click save and then we'll go to view mode. So when we're in the view mode of the map, we can of course zoom in on something quickly. We can click the plus or minus. But if we just know that we need to go right here, we click this grab area here, and we just make a little box around where we want to zoom in on. And now we've zoomed in on these two, and we can see more data about where they are in relation to other US cities in that area. And of course, if we want to immediately go back to the default view, we click home, and then we're back to a zoomed out version. Now, of course, we're using data from all over the world, but if you had data that was more concentrated to a particular area, for example, if your customers are all on the East Coast, maybe, then your default map view would look something more like this, where it's a custom zoom based on the data that's in the report itself. The other cool thing you can do is that because the vendors module is related to other modules, like the products module, for example, you can drag in columns from the products module and use that to filter this vendor's report. So if you want to see a geographical view of where different products are being sourced from, instead of color coding these by country, we could color code them by which product or products are being sourced from these locations. So that's how easy it is to create a map report in Zoho Analytics with latitude and longitude data. And of course, you can share this report by clicking the share and make this view public. And that will allow you to give a link to everyone in your Zoho Analytics organization to view this report. And you can even make a dynamic embed link within an iframe on an existing web page. So I hope you got something out of this video that you can use for your business. And don't miss our next video where we're going to talk about how we created the custom function to automatically populate our latitude and longitude data. As always, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. So thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.